I'm a US citizen, and on a federal level, I do not vote. I recently found that these words frustrate many people. I spoke with a group of master's students who got a little heated when I told them that I don't vote. Voting tends to pull out an emotional response. Once people have made up their mind, it's hard to incorporate new opposing information. This psychological pitfall is tied to cognitive dissonance. Politics generally polarize and can even split the closest family and people apart. Some families go so far as to ban politics at family gatherings. Now, this can be a useful approach, but it's a bit extreme in my mind. Instead, you can take steps to having a more objective conversation. Only then can you rightfully strengthen your resolve or change your mind. Now, I'm guessing your mind, like most, is already made up on voting. Although I urge you to review or at least consider what I'm going to be going over today with as much objectivity as possible. And before we get to it, I'd really appreciate it if you just tap the like button down below as well as subscribe to my channel. All right, the first reason that I don't vote is voting statistics. Your vote is counted, but it doesn't really count. There's a reason actuaries and data scientists are paid the big bucks. Their skill sets are transferable across industries and help businesses uncover valuable trends. They're always looking at cause and effect relationships. And on the federal level, they would tell you that your vote has virtually no effect on the outcome of a presidential election. It's not statistically significant. In the 2016 election, over 136 million Americans voted. Based on that number, your vote would have made up 0.000007% of the total, roughly. Although the state you lived in and the candidate you vote for can change the impact of your vote slightly, but my point doesn't really change. Your singular presidential vote is counted, but it doesn't count for much. Now, a lot of people oppose that I don't vote, but I urge you to hear out all three of my points before you leave some angry feedback in the comments. A common counter argument to this point is if everyone thought it was this way, no one would vote. My response to that counter argument, it might be a good thing that everyone doesn't think this way, and if the number of voters dropped, I'd be more compelled to vote and research the candidates. That's why I'm more likely to participate in local elections. All right, the second reason I don't vote. I'm not as informed as I think, and that probably applies to most voters. For example, would you rather have 10 doctors diagnose your illness or 10,000 citizens? I'm guessing you want the doctors. Now, let's extend this logic to diagnosing America's issues and keeping the nation healthy. Our nation is much more complex than a single human body. Do you really think that the average American is well enough informed to make a reasonable vote? Before you answer, let's just review the average American. About 65% of Americans don't have a college degree. The average national mortgage debt is just over $200,000. The average time watching TV daily is about 4 hours, and daily time spent on social media is over 2 hours. Now, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing you're above average since you're listening to this video or reading my blog post. Still, learning how our country and economy works takes a deep understanding of many topics. I don't think I'm well enough informed to cast a worthwhile vote. Now, at this point, what's a common counter-argument? Well, get informed and then vote. I hear that all the time. But my response, it would take more time in the day than I have to get informed. There's a lot of uninformed and misinformed voters. Most all media sources are biased, and if you go straight to the candidates, they make a lot of campaign promises, but how many of them actually come to fruition? There are also many special interest groups pulling strings that the public doesn't know about. Now, on to the third reason why I don't personally vote. Voting condones a broken system. The majority of taxes are paid by a minority. The top 20% of Americans make up 52% of total national income, but will pay 87% of total income tax. As a result, many voters are getting more out of the government than they contribute. Asking some of the wealthiest and smartest people to vote is similar to four foxes sitting around a table asking a chicken what it wants to eat. Democracy is a feedback loop that will lead to more and more government. Inevitably, taxes and deficits will climb. These abuses and others have destroyed all democracies throughout history. Voting in a democracy isn't a perfect system, but it's one of the best to date. It's easy to point out a problem, but finding a solution is the hard part. I don't have a fix for the voting system, but I do know how you can improve your impact on election outcome. Do you want your vote to count? Well, here's my solution and conclusion to the ideas I've shared. Money runs politics, and better financed candidates tend to win. 3 researchers found that every election, except one, from 1980 through 2012 showed a positive correlation between money spent and candidates winning. With this evidence in mind, if you want to have more impact on election outcomes, start saving money. And maybe instead of spending so much time debating politics, start a business that adds value to others. If you've solved other people's problems, you can amass a fortune. You can then use that fortune to have a larger impact on election outcomes. Also, at that point, you'd likely have a better understanding of the economy and could make a more informed vote. Now, please always remember that it's a right to vote, not a forced vote. If you get mad that I don't vote, you're probably letting your emotions get the best of you. For comparison, Australia and other countries make voting mandatory, but is a forced and likely uninformed vote really any better? You might want to take a closer look at the money behind efforts to get people in America to vote. There's a push to get certain demographics to the polls which tend to vote certain ways. It's all a numbers and correlation game. In conclusion, I'm extremely grateful to have the right to vote, but I exercise my right not to. That's until I feel compelled enough to take a trip to the voting polls. I know this is a hot topic, but I'd really appreciate it if you share any comments. And also I'd really appreciate it if you just tap the like button down below, as well as subscribe to my channel.